All right, so the other day I did like a initial reaction just to the craziness of that 29-point comeback, the Mitch Johnson not doing anything about it, Wemby looking not like himself, just Fox throwing the game away repeatedly off these awful turnovers and then leading to the last just awful decision to shoot the ball when he could have just held it and then um but just I thought the craziness of that game deserves just a more in-depth breakdown. I want to take a look at like the late game sequence, the last few plays that kind of led up to OG's tip in, the miracle at the Garden, and then I want to break down just the 29-point collapse, the complete offensive collapse by the Spurs, and credit the Knicks and take a look at what they did right, what the Spurs did wrong. Then I kind of want to just break down just the tale of pretty much two games between the Spurs first half and the Knicks first half, and then the 30-point swing in the second half. And then I'll talk about maybe some legacy things from the game, some stuff going into Game 5, some of the stuff from the press conferences, and a couple other stats and box score stuff I thought was interesting. All right, I want to start. So there was like a minute, 2 minutes left. 104, 100. Spurs are up. Okay, nothing's going right. They probably should have called a timeout by now, another one. I mean, Mitch Johnson was pocketing his timeouts for the last 30 seconds of the game in hopes, I don't know if he thought he was going to have to challenge or if he wanted to save him for Game 5. I don't know, but was saving his timeouts a lot. 4-point game now. Knicks have all the momentum. Brunson comes down, right wing, and hits just the David over Goliath shot. Six footer over the 7'5" guy, high arcing Steph Curry type shot, right? Over Wembanyama's outstretched arms, 10-foot standing reach. He doesn't care. Nails that shot. The crowd pop in there was ridiculous. Okay. Then Fox comes down the other end and just this was the story of the second half, and I'll get into that, but I'll stay on the late game sequence for now. Fox comes down and he gets double teamed and just throws the ball away again off the screen. And Josh Hart reads it. Josh Hart has a wide open layup. Josh Hart gets the steals. This is his finals moment. It's 103, 104. Josh Hart's going to be the hero. He did it the right way too. He stole the ball. He's making the right play. And he just gets a bad jump in between a dunk and a layup, and he just plays on the back rim and smokes the layup. And then Larry David almost had a heart attack. All the crowd energy from Brunson's three, from the momentum, is just like shot out of the building. And of course, Wemby comes back down the other end, gets fouled. He's going to shoot 2 free throws. The Knicks could have taken a 1-point lead. Now they're going to be down 2. It's just one of the worst 4-point swings we've ever seen. And then, right, Wemby steps up. And this is just part of his role in this late game collapse. He misses both. Wembanyama misses both free throws, and he's a 90% shooter. That has to be mental. That has to be a little bit mental and fatigue. I think Wembanyama was psychologically, emotionally, and physically tired at this point, between just the conference finals, giving up Game 2, giving up the 30-point lead in the first half. Now he has to step up, and there's all this pressure on him at 22. And I think those 2 missed free throws are going to be a stain on his career, along with being 3 for 14 in the second half and being nowhere to be seen, just as the ring is pretty much ripped away from him by Jalen Brunson and OG. So he misses the 2 free throws. Wemby does. Pretty much saves the Knicks because now they're not down 3. Okay, and the Knicks just play better. The Knicks did a good job not hunting threes in the second half. It almost felt like the Spurs were hunting more threes than the Knicks, which is kind of crazy. But just Brunson even said in the press conference, right, like, we're going to try to get singles. We're going to get singles and let the Spurs sort of beat themselves and see what can happen. He got comfortable in the second quarter, late in the third quarter, definitely in the fourth quarter, and then late in the game, in a close game, like, everyone in the arena thinks the Knicks are going to win the game because they have Brunson, right? Their late game closer is Brunson. The Spurs late game closer is Fox, right? Everybody just feels like, with all the stars in the building, all the stars in MSG, everyone's hype. Everyone's there just cheering giddy and screaming and like has so much faith in Brunson, and Brunson is just like Mr. Cool. He's like, guy, I got it. And he doesn't say much. He doesn't, but OG rallies around him. Macau, Cat, they rally around his calm, cool, confident demeanor. And he hits shots. He comes back down after Wemby misses those, right? And what happened? Yeah. It's 103, 104. Brunson comes down and hits his floater. And part of that's Wemby's so tired. Wemby was stopping those shots all night, but Brunson comes down, uses the high screen. Everyone stays home on the shooters, and he gets another floater to go and brings the crowd back into it. They're up one. Still no timeout. This part kind of shocked me. The Knicks take the lead for the first time. There's 1 minute left in the game. The Spurs have 2 timeouts. Mitch Johnson he's pocketing these timeouts for game 5 or to challenge. I don't know. But the Spurs haven't had a coherent offensive plan in 24 minutes, right? They started the fourth quarter making a decisive decision, like, we're going to get Wemby the ball on lobs, and he was getting fouled. So they got in the bonus early. Call a timeout here, right? Draw up something to get something going to the basket. Get free throws. They're already in the bonus. Castle, they haven't made a 3. They made 3 threes in the whole second half, right? They come down, no offensive set. Castle's dribbling it out. Josh Hart makes up for his, but before that, when Castle's dribbling nowhere on the sideline, on the baseline, Mitch Johnson can then decide to call a timeout. He kind of just likes to stand there and watch. I don't get it. And I'm not saying Mike Brown would be different on the Spurs, but I just think maybe there's a different type of coach needed for this young group, right? A more hands-on approach. Because he lets Castle dribble, he lets Castle attack. John Starks jumps up from the baseline and is pointing on the baseline. The crowd's into it. The ref calls out of bounds. I don't even know if he stepped out, but it's part of it is just the intensity and the physicality and the defense, and the momentum builds on the refs too. Call a fucking timeout. Set a play up. It's kind of inexcusable because Castle was just doing his best. I think Castle was on that play trying to draw. He was trying to get free throws again because he doesn't really have that. With all due respect, I like Castle. He doesn't have that many moves. Okay, he was just trying to beat him up, get free throws. Josh Hart made up for his missed 2 right there. After Hart's and the Knicks' incredible stop, literally their best defensive possession all game. Hart, Knicks come back down. I wouldn't have minded a timeout here from Mike Brown, but I get because they have all the momentum. So just let him play. But Wemby has his arguably best defensive possession of the game. The Knicks are playing with the lead. The Knicks slow it down. They get a shot clock violation. They give the Spurs another chance. Finally, Mitch Johnson calls a timeout. Okay? About damn time. Sets up a play. But the play he sets up is, again, something going away from the basket. I don't know if they were worried about Wemby getting hurt or if he was just that fucking tired. But the play they come out with is De'Aaron Fox ISO'd on OG Anunoby, taking a step back jumper. I'll take my chances with OG in that every single time. And OG made another stop right there. Knicks come back down. The Spurs play, and I liked on the second to last play of the game for the Knicks, the Spurs played their normal defense. They didn't get too cute. I thought this was smart. They kept Wemby on a traditional big man role, playing in the weak side block, able to come over and help. He deterred Brunson's first drive, forced him to a step back. Brunson drove again. Wemby blocked his shot. That was the defense that got them here. Wembanyama playing that traditional center shot blocker role just so well, and using Josh Hart or whoever the non-shooter is as just a non-person you can just leave open. They got away from that. I'll talk about this. The reason I'm talking about this, they got away from this style of defense on the very last play and got way too cute and tried something they hadn't done all series, maybe all season, which is they put Wembanyama on Jalen Brunson, and then they doubled him with De'Aaron Fox and left 3 guards to box out and rebound, Cat, OG, and Mikal Bridges, along with Shamet. And that's a lot of asking on Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and Devin Vassell, who are really not known as rebounders. I know Harper gets rebounds, but there's a difference between getting a lot of rebounds and being a rebounder. I think you have to question what Mitch Johnson was thinking, or Sean Sweeney, the defensive, their defensive guy, in bringing their 7'5" guy away from the basket when they're only up 1 point. I mean, there's no need. It's not like you're trying to prevent a three from Jalen Brunson, who's Stephen Curry. I mean, it's not Stephen. I like Jalen Brunson. That was a makeable shot for him, right? But I think you're okay with that shot, and you just go and try to get the rebound at that point. I don't. I think there's going to be a lot to be said about it. It almost feels like, and credit Brunson because he got the ball up quick. He recognized Wemby was out on the perimeter. He's like, it's almost like a 2-for-1. Right? Wemby's on the perimeter. Let me get the ball up sooner than they expected, so we get 2 shots. Right? And he saw Cat. I mean, Cat and OG are down there 2-on-1 with Stephon Castle. I think that the Spurs were going to get that rebound probably, or the Knicks are going to get that rebound 7 times out of 10. It wasn't like a fluke tip, and this was a bad defensive plan that they hadn't tried. It almost feels like the Spurs forgot they had to get the rebound also. Like, I think it was a great defensive strategy if there was 1 second on the clock, maybe 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. But with 6, 7 seconds, they did that on purpose. You can't just abandon the rebound. You have to close the defensive possession. That is basic principles. And no one boxed out. Well, Steph Castle had a great boxer on Cat, but Dylan Harper tried to outjump OG, and he got punished for it. He pretty much helped him tip it in. But it was an incredible play from OG. Credit OG. But you got to question Mitch Johnson. I want to talk about Josh Hart, the second end of his just late game breakdowns, and it's not like he was making necessarily awful plays. It's just the way things break sometimes, and he would have been known as the hero for Spurs fans and the villain for Knicks fans, and he probably would have been hated, rightfully so. But after he missed that 2-point go ahead layup, wide open, inexplicable, shock, would have been a moment in the Garden. OG's guarding Fox, forced him into a tough step back too, right? And Josh Hart goes and doubles Wemby on the box out and just leaves Steph Castle. Who killed the Thunder on offensive rebounds. In the same way, in Game 7, he had a really important putback layup. And same thing again here. He crashed the board again. Great play by Castle, who was just making plays all fourth quarter. The only person who was trying to make plays. Gets to the free throw line again, knocks down 2 free throws, and Josh Hart is just in the middle of the worst 4-point play in NBA history between the missed layup and giving up those free throws to Steph Castle. And the Knicks are down 1 again, and the crowd still feels the momentum, but Josh Hart just looks devastated. And Knicks come back down. Really not a good play. They don't get a good play. The Spurs play really good defense. Yeah, here, I'll start that over. Then the Knicks come down 1, right? I believe it's 106, 105 at this point. Castle just put them ahead. The defense the Spurs ran on this play, and I just talked about it, was great, right? The Knicks get forced into a tip out, or Knicks get forced into a drive. Brunson gets blocked. Cat tries to tip it out. And this is the play, right? This is the one that's going to haunt Fox and Spurs fans and Wemby fans and some basketball fans and live on in Knicks fans' dreams in glory forever, which is the De'Aaron Fox inexplicable layup and the OG Anunoby LeBron James 2016 block, which I don't even feel like saying that because I think it stands not above that. It's not as good as that play, but it has its own historic significance now, which is like when you say, oh yeah, the OG block and the OG tip in, like people know what you're talking about. They know where they were when they watched the game. They know it's game 4 of the NBA Final 20. Like OG is a legend at this point. And Fox, as much as Fox was having a great game, he really was for 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, he had so many turnovers, and he just had so many bonehead plays, starting with the very end of the third quarter, really, when he just threw the ball out of bounds. And it all culminated in this last just refusal to win. I mean, that's the type of play Fox made. That's the type of play you make when you just don't know how to win. And maybe I have to do this dissertation on Fox, but because I feel bad because I got the signed jersey right there. And I was a Kings fan. I am a Kings fan. He played in SAC. But listen, this is the disease of not knowing how to win, what it takes. And obviously that play was just a bonehead play, just a dumb play. I've thought about it for 24 hours. Not just the play, but just the game. Like, There's only two explanations, maybe three, that I have for Fox taking that shot. They're not good, any of them. The first two, really, same one. He thought there was more time on the clock and that the shot clock was not off. I don't think that's the case. I think he could see the shot clock was off. He could see there's 13 seconds left. The other explanation, because you can't see the score above the rim, is he thought the game was tied. Right? He thought this is a reverse J.R. Smith moment. Right? This is a possibility. I think this is not look good on Fox, but this happens all the time for players where they just don't know the time or they don't know the score, and it's just inexplicable for a point guard making $55 million a year to not know the time and score. That's one explanation. I think that's actually the better explanation. He might want to take that one, but in my opinion, then he is no longer a point guard. You have to call him a combo guard or an off guard or something else, because a point guard on an NBA championship caliber team would never make a bonehead play like that. Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Kyrie Irving. But go to old Isaiah Thomas, like Mitch Johnson, Luka, like even some of the point guards who, you see them all the time. LaMelo Ball would have dribbled that out, right? And that's not a. It's harder to think of point guards that wouldn't have dribbled that out, right? I can think of maybe some wings or maybe some centers, right, that don't want to take the free throws, that wouldn't. But that's my only other explanation, is that, and this is the worst one, this is the second explanation for Fox, is that he didn't want to take the free throws. He knew the score, he knew the time, and that he thought he could just get the layup and avoid having to take those pressure free throws. That's the only explanation. Because if you're an NBA caliber player and you should be confident, like, getting that layup is the same thing as getting 2 free throws in your mind, right? That's how it is for Steph Castle late game. He was just taking the foul. I'm gonna walk up. I want these 2 free throws. I'm gonna knock it down. Fox didn't want the free throws. Fox barely wanted the ball right there, and I feel like he's now playing for his San Antonio Spurs career the rest of the series. But you do have to credit, and I'll flip now, talking about the same play, but just from like OG, the Knicks perspective. OG, the good part of the penultimate play, which is OG is going to get a statue, not for that block, but he would if he didn't have the tip in. That's how good the block is. The block is getting so underrated because of the play he made afterwards, but Fox catches that ball known as a fast player, and he's about 4 feet ahead of OG. And OG takes like 2 long strides, closes the distance, and just what he does so well is block without fouling, right? He blocked a shot he plays great defense. So many guys can get to the ball, but then they just foul with the body. He takes the contact, because Fox creates the contact for some reason. For some unknown reason, Fox creates the contact when he could just wait to get fouled. OG absorbs it like he does so well, blocks the shot. Jordan Clarkson's looking at Fox like, what? Why did you even shoot that? The Knicks are coming down, and it just kind of felt like you kind of knew at that point the Knicks were going to win it. It's hard to say that, but not in the way they did. But then they come down, and this is where I already kind of broke down the tip-in. I think that's good. But, you guys saw, like, I broke down the defense. I'll break down the offense. Like, it was pretty simple. OG just made an incredible play. There's not really anything to it. Like, sometimes, excuse me. Yeah, on that last play, like, sometimes there's fundamentals to rebounding. Sometimes there's, discipline and there's technique. A lot of times it's just fucking who wants it more. Who wants the ball more? Who wants to win more? And on that last play, and culminating the whole second half, OG Anunoby just showed his high level of compete. He ran from 30 feet away from the basket and just said, I'm gonna put the ball in the rim. It's that simple. There's no technique on that last play. There's no, just pure athleticism and pure will to put that ball in and to put the Knicks up 3-1 get the Knicks the first finals home win in almost 10,000 days. I mean, this is going to be OG's statue outside of MSG. And he's probably the finals MVP right now because of just how incredible that moment was. All right, moving on from the freaking crazy late game sequence that I've been talking about for like, talking about 2 minutes for like 15 minutes. The 29-point just collapse as a whole. Because Wemby said it in the postgame. They were asking, Wembenyama in the post game, how did that fourth quarter, breakdown happen? And he said it started well before that. And that's everybody saw that. It's kind of it's weird the way the comeback almost felt inevitable. That's why I understand calling it sort of a miracle, the MSG miracle, because the Spurs looked like they felt it coming. The crowd felt it coming. And it was a 27-point game, and there's let's go Knicks chants. And the Spurs look nervous. It's so bizarre watching the game. It's really weird when you watch it back because and when you look, Wembenyama played 23 minutes in the second half. He sat for 53 seconds. That's it. And they were the team up 27 and a half. It's like inexplicable. It's almost like they felt the pressure. And I get like he's playing a lot because the Knicks are on the come, but he played a lot in the third quarter. Like he played minutes that were just unnecessary a lot of times. But I'll get to that in a second. Like I think the Spurs just have to feel fucking devastated. I don't think they might bounce back, but I'll get there. But man, it probably felt at halftime like the series was 2-2 already. It sort of did for me. I was talking to one of my buddies like, I felt the Knicks could come back, but I was talking just like, man, if Wemby wins the finals, like I just was talking as if the Spurs had a great shot to win the finals. That's what I felt like. I was just like, man, if Wemby wins the finals, he's gonna have this is the best opportunity anyone's had to become the GOAT since LeBron, right? And LeBron lost his first finals. He didn't have he didn't have this opportunity that Wemby has. And it's just sort of like, wow, I was talking to him like, I can't believe this team's this young. This guy's this young, doesn't really have a number two and could potentially win the championship. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, the basketball gods are like, no, we will not let you guys win without adversity this soon. It's almost incredible the way it happened. But in less than 20 minutes, it literally all flips for Wemby. Wemby and the Spurs. It goes from Wemby has GOAT potential, we're gonna win the championship, to wow, this is the greatest offensive collapse and coaching collapse in literally NBA history. And this is gonna be a moment remembered just in infamy in San Antonio and for the whole league forever. That Wemby cannot get away from this, and the game two is just gonna stain him. And like this has to be worse for Wemby because 2007, people don't even know LeBron was in the fucking finals that year half the time. It's like, oh yeah, the Spurs won, right? They had Tim Duncan, yeah, they won. Oh, who'd they play? Oh, it was LeBron. Who's on his team? Oh, that makes sense. They got swept. They had Tim Duncan and Tony, right? It's not like the Spurs were favorites to win the series, and they've led by 10 points in every game. This feels like a ring that was coughed up. It feels more like 2011 LeBron, which that's the one that people always just drop right away of like, well, no, he can't be better than Michael because the way he played in 2011. And Wemby hasn't played that bad, but he's had that game two moment and this second half collapse that he's now a part of this, that it will stick with him. No takeaway is this is now like, this Knicks team is now one of the greatest finals runs ever. If you look at even if you just combine the 20-point fourth quarter comeback against the Cavs and this another 29-point second half comeback against the Spurs, like these are good teams. Those are two of the final four teams in the NBA that for stretches at a time they are just looking so much better than, and the stretches that are the most important part of the game. I don't think we've ever seen a team that was this, and I'm not saying the word, I'm not even going to say mediocre, but that was this pretty good. Like this team is pretty good that became a great team pretty much over 2 months. Like there was Knicks fans 3 months ago. Even there was Knicks fans when it was 2-1 against the Hawks that were like, I'm out. I'm done being a Knicks. This team sucks. I'm out on this team. I don't get what we're doing. Mike Brown is, like, and then they won. I mean, how many? They've won 14 of their last 15 games, and they're probably I think they're gonna close out Game 5 and win the championship 16-2. I mean, that's gonna go down as one of the greatest finals run. OG has been playing like an all NBA player on both ends. Cat has leveled up to this pseudo big man playmaker that can also shoot the three, and he's like the perfect modern big man, and he's not doing his cat flop, bitch, foul all the time, a bunch of shit like he did in this game a little bit, but he's just been incredible when he's on the court. And It's crazy how fast this team went from, man, should we trade Cat and OG for Giannis? I mean, there were some Knicks fans saying like, let's trade for Giannis at the deadline, right? And now this is going to be one of the most beloved starting fives and bench all the way down for like decades to come, if they can close it out. But yeah, I'll break down the. All right, but yeah. So like when the Spurs were up 29, it felt like. Actually, I want to go back before that, but at the end of the second half, it felt like the Spurs were the only ones. Let me just restart. Yeah, like start of the second half, it was really all on the Spurs to come out and just show the Knicks the game was over. That was it. They needed to come out in the second half and step on the neck. Like they needed to come out in the second half, and even it goes back for like Wemby was saying, he's right. They asked him at the end of the game, what happened at the fourth quarter, the 15-point clock? He goes, no, it started before that. Why? He's probably referencing the third quarter, but honestly, it starts before that. If you look at the end of the second half, as much as they were 14 for 26 from the three in the first half, the very end of the second half, they got comfortable and they stopped doing any sort of ball movement, getting in the paint, playing physical, kick it out, swing, get the defense in blender, knock that gym ball. They one pass, triple, right? And they were still hitting some of them, so it wasn't as noticeable, right? It was almost like it was deceptive. It's almost like when Giannis hit a three, right? Because the Spurs are so good at scoring in the paint and so good in transition, and when they get to the free throw line, when they're playing physical, similar to Giannis, right? But as a team, they're Dylan Harper, Steph Castle, Fox, Wemby. They all like to play in the paint. Similar to when Giannis makes a three, it's almost like, you know what? That's kind of good for us because now he's going to shoot more. It's almost like every time the Spurs made a three, it's like, yeah, that's 3 points, but how many are they going to shoot and miss now because of that? And I just felt like they got lulled into a sense of security by the Knicks first half. The Knicks just playing 12 guys, the Knicks kind of just trying to hang on. And I think the Spurs felt like the game was over. Came out in the second half. They were the only people in the building who thought the game was over. The Knicks fans are doing let's go Knicks chants down 27. Jalen Brunson looks like he's ready to play the whole second half, as he will. And the Spurs are like, fuck, we still got to put these guys away. And they didn't come out like, this is our ring to take. I didn't see that from the Spurs at all. And you got to wonder what Mitch Johnson said at half to keep them going. You know, you got to wonder how you got to wonder why they came out. So why they always come out in the second half and in the fourth quarter in particular and take their foot off the gas. Part of that's being young, right? But maybe they're not being coached hard enough. I'm not sure, but they got to figure out their second half issues, like Wemby said in the press conference, because they worked too hard in the first half to just come out and be like, well, the game's over. Job's not finished. Like Kobe said, job's not done. Job's not finished. They didn't have that energy. And literally as insane as the comeback felt, like I said, it felt like the Spurs were the only people that thought it wasn't going to happen. You know, you can I like calling it, you know, the MSG miracle and, you know, whatever, like it was this insane night, but at halftime, I felt like, you know, well, if the Spurs keep shooting threes and, you know, the averages, like I'm sure that this is probably what the Knicks said at halftime. Mike Brown had to look and go, man, we missed 8 free throws. They missed a goaltending call for us. They missed a goaltending call that was for them. That's 12 points right there. This team's made the most threes in a half in NBA history. That's got to be like 20 points right there. Like, we're about 20 points from bullshit. I think we can, and he even said, let's make our own luck, which I like that he said that. He said, we're going to need some luck, but let's go out there and let's just give it everything because let's put ourselves in the right position for when we do get lucky, for when they do shoot themselves in the foot and leave the door open, right? And I think he had the Knicks ready to play. Part of that is they're more mature, but Mitch Johnson did not have the Spurs ready to play in the second half at all. I mean, it's the biggest offensive collapse I think I've ever seen. Ever. 30 points they scored, 14 in the third. It's not like the Knicks had a crazy second half. The Knicks had 58 points only, and 36 were from 2 players. The Knicks had, I mean, that's an incredible performance, but 58 is nowhere near the 76 the Spurs had in the first half. The Spurs just absolutely collapsed offensively, and they started running, and Kobe used to say this, Kobe used to say, like, all the offense nowadays is random. The Spurs were benefiting from their random offense in the first half, but when you're up 30 points, why do you want to keep dealing in such variancy? Why deal with luck any longer? Let's just get free throws. Let's go get layups. I know you're like, well, it's not that easy. It is, because even you don't need to get them every play, but it's honestly hard to miss 4 layups in a row, even if they're contested. Wemby should have shot 20 shots from 2-point range in the second half if he was going to go 3 for 14. Right? I can't believe how random their offense stayed in the second half, up 30 points, and how insistent they were on shooting 3-pointers. The only way you lose a game when you're up that many points is if you have possessions of scoring nothing. And the only way you have that many possessions in a row of scoring nothing, that many possessions of 6-point swings, is if you're missing threes and you're giving up corner threes to OG. OG was 5 for 5. The Knicks' best shot, 17.5% of their shots are corner threes, and they shoot I think 45%. Right? The Spurs just had a complete breakdown on offense, and then on top of giving up corner threes, like, it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen, because Mitch Johnson he was taking some timeouts. I don't want to just say he wasn't taking timeouts, but he would take a timeout, Spurs would come out, and they jack up 3 more threes. I mean, there was... Let's look at it real quick. Hold on. I think I'll break it down. The moment the game really changed for the Spurs and for the Knicks is when Castle got his 4th foul. Like, Castle got his 4th foul, and it was very similar to Cat getting his 2nd foul. Right? It happened 2 minutes into the second half for Castle's 4th. It was an offensive foul, right? And he got taken out, and the Spurs just kind of looked a little shaken, a little unconfident without him on the floor. They didn't seem as decisive, and they weren't decisive the whole second half. But when he went out, and then literally the very next play, Wemby picks up his flagrant. Castle's off the court, and now Wemby's 1 flagrant from being suspended. And it kind of changed the physicality that the Spurs were playing with. Definitely changed the physicality Wemby was playing with. Those 2 plays right there, they kind of checked the Spurs. And the Knicks along with the Knicks up in their physicality in the second half, they started playing more dogs. Alvarado played more, Hart played more. There was more pressure, more ball pressure on Fox, forcing him into turnovers. Harper had to do more. And I just think, like, you could feel the Spurs start to play with, like, a nervous energy, even though they were still up 25, 20 points, right? Once it got down to 19, I think everyone in the building was like, okay, this thing's live. And I think then Mitch Johnson took a timeout, but it had been a 10-0 run, something like that. There was multiple 10-0, 13-0 runs that Mitch Johnson waited a little too long to take a timeout. But then they'd come out of the timeout, and it'd be the same old. I mean, there was one possession where Fox took a 3 from the corner. Wemby got the rebound, dribbled it out, took a 3. Then they got another rebound, kicked it out to Wemby. He took another 3, and it's just kind of like, what are we doing? Like, I think at a certain point I said that out loud. I'm like, what are they trying to give this game away? It kind of felt like, and I'll use the word again, gym ball. They were playing Cal Fit ball, which is like, get the rebound, kick it out, 3. It's like when you're up 25 points, I want us playing old school basketball. Pound it inside, beat them up, get to the free throw line. Stack up possessions. The only way you blow a lead, again, I'll say it, like, as a coach, if you're Mike Brown and you know, like, the only way you come back from that is by going on a run, right? OG even said it's a game of runs. To go on a run, you have to build with defensive stops. You need multiple defensive stops in a row. It's the only way to go on a run. When you come down and you're jacking up 1-shot threes early in the shot clock, up 20 points, not only are you not running clock and not playing the possession game and using your lead, you're just giving them a stop. Boom, that's a stop. Okay, now they score 2 points. Come back down. Champagny missed 3 again. 2 stops in a row. Keldon Johnson missed corner 3. Like, it's not like the Knicks are playing good defense. You're just giving them the ball back. And that's why I say gym ball. Because it's like, the Spurs gave the game up. They did. The Knicks went and took it, though. But, and then you saw, like, as the Spurs are missing more and more threes, Keldon Johnson's missing wide open threes. Harper missed 25. He missed 3 25-footers I'm just sort of like, why is he shooting 3 25-footers in the second half? I don't understand. Why is Wemby shooting? Yeah, like Champagny was taking one pass, one shot threes at 22 seconds left in the shot clock, right? Mitch Johnson takes a timeout after a 6-point swing, and but literally then the Spurs come out and they're still running what I'm gonna call random offense, gym offense. I don't know. I don't know why there was no, and this is especially in the third quarter when the Spurs had a chance to step on the throat. They didn't run runs. They didn't run one of their 45 set where they come in, upset two screens with one shooter and Wemby. Wemby rolls the pop to shooter. They didn't run one pick and roll, swing, throw the lob to Wemby. None of that in the third quarter at all. I don't know if Mitch Johnson was like, I'm just going to let these boys play because they're cooking. But I think after the first 3 minutes, you could see the Spurs weren't right. I would have taken a timeout and been like, let's get right. Hey guys, this isn't the right shit we're doing. Don't blame the players, which is what he did after the game. He goes, yeah, we got away from what we were doing right in the first half. I don't think you were doing anything right in the first half, but making threes. I think there's a complete misunderstanding of how you won the first half. The other team was in foul trouble and you made a bunch of threes. So if you got away from what you were doing in the first half, then that would have been getting them in foul trouble, which he didn't mention that in the post-game conference, and I guess shooting more threes. So I guess he was okay with them shooting a bunch of threes. I'm not sure. It's definitely disappointing. But every time he took a timeout, they'd come out, and there was no attempt to get Wemby the ball in the third quarter. I don't even know if Wemby touched the paint in the whole third quarter. I don't think he did. He was on the perimeter, and early in the third, he went into, well, we're up 27 points. We're going to tie the series 2-2. The worst thing that can happen is I get ejected and we don't have me for game 5. And he even said in the post-game conference that when he got the flagrant, it definitely, he started to play a little different. He said that. He said, of course it's going to affect my physicality. And I felt like he started to play more normal as the game crept closer and closer, but it just started to become too late and too late. And he sort of felt like he was coasting, hoping they would just kind of take the win home for him. He could kind of rest a little bit while still being a presence on defense. It doesn't work that way. You can't win the game in one half. You can't win the game in 3 quarters. You can't even save yourself for the next game. You have to take the series one game at a time. I don't care what they say. I felt like the Spurs, Wemby, and Mitch Johnson were already thinking about the next game when Wemby got that flagrant. Yeah, halfway through the third, it just felt like the game was in play. 19-point game. Wemby was getting checked out, and the Spurs had lost those minutes by like 10 points. And it's like, holy fuck. Then Cornette's coming in, right? And you know that you can sense it's bad because Mitch Johnson only sat Wemby for 53 seconds, and it's still a 20-point game. I mean, that should tell you something. That should tell you something about how nervous the Spurs were playing with their lead. It was a sort of mix of like nervousness without a sense of urgency. They were casual about it, accepting the inevitability of it. I really hated it. Hated watching them just not like rage against the dying of the light, like you would say. There was no fight. I would have liked to see them screaming at each other. Chalmers calling LeBron a bitch. Like, where's that? And like I said, Wemby came out for 1 minute, and part of that is because the Spurs, and they got to address this in the offseason, the Spurs have absolutely no center rotation. Wembanyama's on the perimeter all game, and we see now he's not a good screen setter. He's a good rebounder because he's tall, but he gets beat up by the physicality, right? And throughout the game, he slowly starts to not go in the paint anymore. They have Luke Cornette, Kelly Olynyk, Bismack Biyombo, Mason Plumlee, and they all stand on the sideline like a bunch of big dummies, just cheerleaders, like a bunch of big dumb cheerleaders. Because none of them are touching the court at all. You got to wonder, why are we spending 4 roster spots on guys? And I'm sure it's to beat up Wemby in practice. I get it. I get the idea. It's because they want to replicate the physicality in practice. I get it. But do you really need 4 guys for that? Like, is Kelly Olynyk really replicating any sort of physicality? I think they're going to have to find some backup bigs for next season. That would be really helpful to Wemby. And some bigs that could play with Wemby even. Yeah, Knicks go on a 13-0 run. No timeout. Wemby only sat a minute. I would have liked him to use timeouts maybe in the third, Mitch Johnson, just to keep Wemby fresh if he was going to play him the whole game, the whole second half. Right? Somehow the Knicks look so much fresher than the Spurs in the second half. Pretty much every game this series. And I sort of want to credit Tom Thibodeau a little bit. I mean, I just think these guys are used to playing 45 minutes a game. And in the second half, it was sort of this nice mix for the Knicks of the Mike Brown, I'm willing to play anybody style of whoever's got it going tonight, and Jose Alvarado had it going, we're going to go with you. And I fucking love that. Role players, because as a role player, if you play bad, it's on Mike Brown because he put me in the game. It's sort of like it imbues you with confidence and freedom to go do whatever, to make plays. But then they also had this Tom Thibodeau style in the second half of, well, OG and Brunson are just going to play the whole second. Wemby tried to do that, and he looked nowhere near as fresh. It wasn't even close. I just think Brunson is used to playing these Derrick Rose type minutes. These guard heavy, long 43 minutes. I have the ball the whole game. I'm going to deal with the double teams and the pressure. I'm not going to turn it over, and I'm just going to stay low to the ground, handle the ball, and run the offense. That's exhausting. And I think you got to give a little bit of credit to Tom Thibodeau for playing him for probably 42 minutes a game, all playoffs last year, and, just pretty much in every game. Yeah, like, another thing I took a note of is you got to feel like Mike Brown had a certain confidence that they could come back because he knows the point guard on the other side. He coached Fox. He's had moments with Fox where Fox was not the best in the fourth. And I know there's fourth quarter Fox, that's what they call him. I know. Come on, he was here in Sacramento. But I think he knows Fox isn't the smartest player. I hate to say that. And that you can kind of give him different looks on pick and rolls, different blitzes, hedges, and force him into turnovers. And sure enough, that's what happened. I mean, there was so many times in the third and fourth where Fox was just throwing the ball out of bounds. I mean, there was one that was inexplicable at the end of the third where he just looked so in his head and just threw the ball straight out of bounds. And the very next play, he dribbled it off his foot. Very end of the third quarter, and he and the Spurs kind of carried that mojo into the fourth. It was just awful. Yeah, the third quarter in particular, but really the whole offensive collapse and throwing the game by Mitch Johnson and the Spurs was really a Joe Mazzulla special. This was a tale of two games that could only happen to coaches like Joe Mazzulla, like Kenny Atkinson, who play the shot quality game of, well, and maybe the Spurs did win the shot quality, I don't know. But this dangerous game of volatility, and the Spurs don't usually play like this. That's why it fucking frustrated everybody. Because they got their luck with the three in the first half. It's like, oh yeah, we made our threes. But then they decided to play with fire longer. They decided to see how many they could hit. I don't know. But you play with fire, you're going to get fucking burned. And you live and die by the three. And they kind of chose to die by it. And there was no benefit either. I mean, they took essentially it's a high risk, high reward shot, the three. It's that simple. You take the shot because it's high reward, right? And you crash it off with the glass and you look to get right. That's Joe Mazzulla's strategy. It felt like the Spurs got literally swept up in this. Oh my God, the 3-point shot is amazing. Oh my God, look how many points we're scoring. Without realizing it was eroding the best parts of their offense, which is getting to the rim, playing physical, drawing fouls. They're not a 3-point shooting team, and they started playing this. Well, it almost looked like they were like, well, they're going to fall eventually. The Spurs were actively in front of my eyes. Their jerseys were turning green. They were turning into the Celtics actively in front of my face. I was seeing Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum jack up threes, and I'm saying, attack the basket. Attack the fucking basket. Like Wembenyama and Steph Castle and Dylan Harper and Fox. It's the same. Those guys are not shooters. What the fuck are we doing? Attack the basket, especially when you're up 20. Like, you shoot a lot of threes as a team like that when you're down 20 and you feel the pressure to come back. The Spurs look like the team that were down, look like a team that were desperate. And they go into the third quarter, they're only up 15 points, exactly what the Knicks wanted, and now you're in danger. But literally, they were still up 20 with 9 minutes to go. Right? I would have maybe taken a timeout if I was Mitch at that time, because you could feel, even though they're up 20, you could feel that the Spurs just weren't quite ready to put it away. The Spurs, and I'll credit Mitch Johnson and the Spurs, it looked like they learned from their third quarter. I'm sure he ripped them apart in between quarters, because it looked like they came out in the fourth quarter and they literally threw 3 lobs to Wemby in a row. Or they got Wemby was in the paint. I was like, oh shit, there he is. Oh my god, look at the 7'5" guys near the rim. And it almost makes you go, oh shit, so it's not that hard. Like sometimes you see him on the perimeter and like, oh well, maybe it's just too hard it's too physical to get that. Like no, there he is. There he is down there. And this Knicks were doing something really smart, which is every time they lobbed the ball to him, they would get in the bonus because they have to extend the game anyways. Really clever. And they had Alvarado in there and Shamet who had fouls to give. So they were just pushing Wemby, not letting them. They were like, we're gonna make your free throws. That's it. There's not gonna credit Mike Brown for that, making adjustments. And Mitch Johnson kind of made adjustments for the fourth quarter, but it felt too late. Then the Spurs were just playing nervous. Then their mojo was gone. Right? Then they were trying to force stuff inside. They weren't playing as confident from the three. They were kind of hesitating. And Fox really mainly just looked like he was in his head after those two turnovers. They kind of carried with him into the fourth. And he was in his head so bad. Fourth quarter Fox, it's sort of like playoff P. The way playoff P turned from playoff P to like playoff P. Now it's fourth quarter Fox to like, oh, you know, fourth quarter Fox, you know. So it's just, it's tough for a former Fox fan. Yeah, their only offense in the fourth quarter was Steph Castle getting to the free throw line. That's it. No one wanted the ball. Wemby looked tired. Vassell, Fox, and even Harper, to an extent, looked a little scared of the moment in the fourth, offensively. I think they had just been so cold, and you just start to beat yourself up mentally when it's like, fuck, we got to get back to what we were doing. But then you're just starting to overthink. It looked almost like the Spurs did in games 1 and 2. And this is almost what happens when they play with a lead, when they're supposed to win. They just stop playing this carefree, aggressive, hungry basketball, and they start playing this, shit, what about this? What about if I miss this shot? It's like, this is the fucking finals game 4. Stop playing so mental. It's crazy the way, I've never seen a team play so differently when they're underdogs versus when they're the favorite. And the Spurs have to figure that out because they're going to be the favorites next year in the West to come out. So they got to figure out how to play when they're expected to win. They seem to only want to play hungry when they're a nobody believes in us team. They got to find that hunger to win that's just inside of them. That's it. My God, yeah. There was sort of, it was a halfway through the fourth, and the Spurs took 2 more quick shot clock threes, and they were up 9 at this time. And it just felt like I remember Champagnie took one, and then I think Vassell took one on the wing, and it was open. It was off a turnover, and it was open. But the way he's just rushing it, it almost felt like they were the ones that needed to come back. Like they were the ones that were playing just with this nervous energy. And I think when you see that as a coach, as Mitch Johnson, you got to call timeout. You got to settle your guys. Use all of them. Go into the last 3 minutes with no timeouts if you need to. Fuck it. Go into the last 3 minutes with no timeouts, but up 10 points. Or go into the last 3 minutes, tie game with all 3 timeouts. You got to pick one. You got to just pick a time to make a difference in the game. You can't just wait for the perfect opportunity. I think he was waiting for the perfect opportunity for the timeout too often. Instead of just, fuck it, timeout. Let me yell at these guys. Try to get some sort of competitive fire out of them. But pretty much once they got to 5 minutes left and the Knicks had done a 20-4 run, Mitch Johnson finally took a timeout, and it just felt too little too late. Like it didn't get late early enough. I've heard that before where people are like, yeah, it'll get late early, which does happen in games a lot. Like you feel like you can come back, and then all of a sudden there's 30 seconds left and it's still a 2-point game, and you're like, fuck, we got a foul. Felt like the Spurs were expecting that to happen, and then all of a sudden the Knicks caught up, and it's a 7-point game, and there's still 5 minutes to work with. And you're like, fuck, we got to hold on for... That's what it felt like the Spurs were doing. You're like, we got to hold on for another 5 minutes. And they didn't have the same confidence, the same, togetherness on offense that they did in the first half. There was no plan, no confidence in the second half. I will say, though, they responded after Mitch Johnson's timeout. I mean, not with anything that was like a coherent offense, but De'Aaron Fox took a tough 3 and hit it. And then Wemby took a tough 21-footer and hit that too. But it just was too little too late. They needed more of that. They needed more of let's just play ball. Let's play ball. Let's get some shots that are our shots and not force stuff. It really was just a tale of two halves, though. Like that simple for the Spurs. The Spurs made 14 threes in the first half. 3 in the second half. They had 2 turnovers and 18 assists in the first half. They had 9 turnovers and 6 assists in the second. This is like the biggest offensive collapse in NBA history. And maybe that I've ever seen in the playoffs, because Harper had 15 in the first, 6 in the second. Wemby had 8 points in the second half in 23 minutes. I mean, this is like really, really inexplicable, except for the fact that they just did nothing to make adjustments throughout the entire third and most of the fourth quarter until it was too late. I do think Fox is just gone in the offseason. Unless they win this series, I just think there's just been too many moments where they needed him, and now there's this whole narrative, and it's probably going to be a mental thing that sticks with them. So this is just going to be tough. It's probably not a timeline they wanted this sped up, especially they didn't expect this to happen once they won the West. They probably were like, okay, we're good for the next year. And I don't know, maybe they won't make any changes, but I just think it's going to be hard to deal with Fox and Harper and keeping Harper off the starting lineup for a whole nother year. I just don't see that happening. And I don't know if there's enough shooting on the team to play Fox, Castle, and Harper in the starting role together. So definitely a lot of decisions to make for the Spurs, unless they come back and Fox then you definitely can't move them or change anything off. OG saved Josh Hart's career. Josh Hart even said so, because Josh Hart would have been unable to. He would have had to get airlifted out of fucking New York, out of MSG, if they had lost that game. It would have been that safe for him to return for Game 5, to be honest with you. I just think he had the worst 4-point play in NBA history, or 4-point swing. Josh Hart had the worst 4-point swing in NBA history, between his missed layup and then fouling Steph Castle to give him 2 free throws, and he would have been haunted. OG followed it up with literally the best 4-point swing in NBA history, with blocking the Aaron Fox and then making the volleyball type athletic jump tip in that Mike Brown had asked him to do pretty much before the game, in this like sports movie type way where it just comes together for someone who really deserved it. OG just seems like such a humble guy, so I just feel like this is sick for him. Anything else? I do think the Finals MVP debate's going to be interesting, really interesting, if the Knicks close it out, especially if like Cat has a huge game. But like right now, it's probably, here's why. I don't expect OG to have another huge game like that. I think Brunson is definitely going to have another big game and they'll win. And so it'll be sort of hard to overlook Brunson's impact on every single win. But that tip-in is going to be in the voters' minds. It's going to be in everybody's minds for a long time. So it's hard to overlook something like that. I mean, listen, if Andre Iguodala got it over Steph Curry, the OG is closer than that was. So I would not be surprised if OG got it. Wouldn't be surprised if Brunson got it. I wouldn't be surprised if Cat has a gigantic game and outplays Wemby, and the Knicks win by 20, and it's just this homecoming moment for Cat, who has been, by the advanced stats, probably the best player in the series. I mean, he played 25 minutes this game and was plus 17. He was so dominant. When he's on the court, the Spurs look like a completely different team. It's kind of crazy how impactful he's been, because normally Cat's known as like a liability on defense. But he's just been locked in. He's not complaining. He's not playing soft. He's playing tough. And I'm interested to see him come out in Game 5 and fucking go for the Knicks of the team, just to go for the kill. I do think even no matter what happens, Cat's going to be an all-time big after this. That's why it's nice to sacrifice. That's why you got to sacrifice to win, because winning is everything. It doesn't matter. Like, when you win that ring, then all your career averages get looked at differently. Seriously. Then that 25 and 12 is like, oh shit, you had 25 and 12 for a championship team? And you look and you're like, well, you only had 13 points, 10 rebounds last game. No one's going to remember that. No one gives a fuck. You remember the Knicks roster. You remember Brunson, OG, Cat, and Cat is essentially already the greatest shooting big man ever. Now going to win a ring for the Knicks, first time in 53 years. Like, he's added to his legacy in a way that's kind of underrated. So he probably had the most to gain from this, honestly. As great as a player as Brunson is, he doesn't have the same career as Cat so far. I do think Brunson's going to end up being the better, Brunson's going to be around. This Knicks team's going to be around for at least next year and the year after that as a competitive starting 5. So Game 5, I'm honestly expecting the Spurs to roll over. I know they haven't, and I'm probably expected to be proven wrong because they haven't done that. They didn't do that all Thunder series. Every time the Thunder won a big game and Shea went off, I kind of thought, okay, the Thunder are gonna take it now. Then Wemby and the Spurs would bounce back, and they do have 2 games rest, so Wemby's gonna be fresh. I'm sure they're gonna build another lead. It's just think they kind of have this mental block right now to close out games because they've led by 10 in every game, and I think it does feel like even if they go up by 10 in the first half in this game, it's hard not to think that the Knicks and Brunson are going to steal it from them again. So I hope they come out and fight, but I got Knicks in 5. Brunson hoist the MVP trophy, and fucking New York is saved from too much bedlam because they win it in San Antonio. But then they come home and it'll be crazy.